Hi, Kama. How you doing?
I'm good, Adrian. How are you?
I've had better days. Um, I'm feeling a little bit down today, so I thought you have some expertise in helping people out with this, and I thought I would give you a call and see if you could offer up some advice with some questions that I have for you. Is that okay? Do you have a bit of time?
Absolutely. Anytime for any of my friends.
Thanks so much. So before we get started, maybe just because other people will be watching this, you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your background so they have an idea.
For sure. So I'm a registered nurse. I've been in practice since 2006. I've only worked in the field of psychiatry and mental health. In fact, I have certification with the Canadian Nurses Association. And I also am a yoga teacher within the Moto Yoga Square One community in Mississauga.
Excellent, thanks. So what are your thoughts or guidance that you can share with people who are trying their best to cope in these unsettling times?
Yeah, it's a really big question and an important question. So thanks for asking. I think so many people can relate to that, which brings me to my first point. I was looking at the literature about this a few weeks ago because I was noticing this energy change amongst a lot of my friends, particularly those who are not surrounded by family right now.
Mm.
And at the start of all of this, what they document in the research is that we first go through the beginning of uncertainty, and with that comes a lot of fear. Now we've entered into what's called the mid phase of the pandemic, and during this phase, we experience fatigue, burnout, particularly for those in essential worker roles. Some of us are experiencing the increased need to use substances because that's obviously accessible during this time
Mm.
and is used as a coping mechanism. And then, of course, some of us are going through grief. And I don't just mean grief in terms of a loss of an individual, although I know many of us are starting to realize that we're closer than we think, given that we're separated only by like 7, as they say. So like I know some individuals, family members who have passed because of COVID, or someone else who knows someone, is you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's that grief, but then there's like this other grief of like loss of identity or loss of perhaps just our norm, right? So I think the first thing I want to tell you is like what you're experiencing is actually quite common. You're not alone. Even though we're apart right now, you're not alone.
Mm. Thanks.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. I'm glad you brought that up, and that's really good to hear, because we do tend to feel like we're alone, and we insulate ourselves in that, I think sometimes, and forget that there are many other people out there who
Yeah,
could be experiencing the same thing.
for sure. And, part of that is, something I want to try to bring up throughout this conversation is an awareness of your mindset.
Mm.
It's really easy for us to go toward the thoughts that almost feed fear.
Right.
And we also are going into this mode of like survival. So there's this shift of me, and oh yeah, don't forget about me, which is
Mm.
a normal experience. And so to step outside to realize that you're actually a part of something greater is a really part of that shift. And most importantly, also to realize what's within your control.
So, following that, in a time of heightened anxiety, and you had mentioned uncertainty, what perspectives or positive affirmations can you share to ease the impact and collective trauma we experience around this pandemic? You kind of mentioned a little bit in the last question. Some
For
of them.
sure.
Is there one specific thing?
I think the one that you're going to hear consistently is that, we're in this together. And that's been a powerful one. I want to take it to like a step further to say like apart. So
Mm.
that's one of the CAMH slogans that I've really, it's resonated with me.
Mhm.
And because like there's like, let's just speak the reality. Like we're really not together. physically. And that's really hard to, like, it's even hard for me, you know, you being a friend of mine, for us to connect in this nature. You know, a lot of us now, getting into the topic of trauma, being social, like, you know, humans. So being social is an incredible aspect of our lives. And so is touch, you know? So, you know, one of the things that I've realized is that how important it is to even just like touch yourself. So like, you know, give yourself a self hug right now, because that's what's going to ground you. And when we talk about collective trauma, one of the ways, you know, just to get into the practical aspect that we need to work on to address that, is through grounding exercises. But in terms of affirmations, I think one other one is recognizing that fear is a normal, and anxiety are normal emotions. But that in terms of being able to conquer or overcome those emotions, the positive affirmation is like, you can do small things that can improve you know, your mood and your thinking, and the cumulative effect of those small actions can make a huge impact in your experience right now. And so, you know, Adrian, just even you mentioning that you're like, you're in bed, and like it makes me think right away about like, what are his top ways to bring pleasure into your life? What are your favorite activities? So for me right now, as you're, you know, checking in with me, I'm outside, because nature is what brings me joy. It really grounds me. And I think just taking a moment to appreciate the colors out here, to appreciate the smells, the fact that this is another affirmation, is that life goes on. You know, and that this is only, there's this sense of impermanence. So impermanence means that we're always able to grow, and that this is not one, like it's speaking with a lot of people in my community. Sometimes we get caught up in this narrow, you know, view that, oh my God, this is the new norm. And the reality is that this is just a juncture along this pathway of what will be eventually a new normal. And I know some people that term doesn't resonate, and that's okay. You know, choose whatever words land for you. But it's like how I think, sorry, I'm rambling, but like, I think what's happening for a lot of people is that they have this opportunity to do some deep reflection about how they want to live their lives. So therein again is an opportunity for you to take control. And when you have a sense of control, that overpowers anxiety and fear. You know, take control of what you can take control of. There are some things out here that we have absolutely, like, I have no control over somebody else's actions right now, whether they want to wear a mask or not, which is like a whole nother topic for another chat, another call.
Yeah, indeed.
But I do have control over what I'm going to do in that situation, and how I'm going to even react to seeing things on the news, whether or not I'm even going to put on the news, you know, because what messages are they pushing out right now?
Right.
You know, the control to realize certain things about the inputs, like which inputs are going to actually feed my soul right now.
So are there any self-care tips or at-home meditations that you can recommend then based on this? You did mention, you know, step out into nature if that's your thing, find something that's for you. Any others that you can recommend?
Oh, of course. I have like hundreds, but we only have so much time together. So one of the most powerful that I'm using right now in my life is gratitude, practicing gratitude. So I have, I have like a written journal, but I also have an app, or even sometimes it's just like saying it out loud, is gratitude practices. It's just identifying a minimum of 1, but you can go up to 3 a day, and they can be the same affirmations, or same gratitude, recognitions, appreciations, every single day. It doesn't matter, because I think sometimes people are like, oh, I need to think of something new. And the beauty of a gratitude practice is that over time, that'll just come naturally. So just start and start doing it every day. The best is to do it in the morning, and even if you can, again at night. And again, start with one and see where it takes you. We know from the research that changes the way that your brain continues to develop or change in terms of neuroplasticity. So why not actually channel that? So that's one. And journaling in itself to appreciate what thoughts, emotions, and even actions are going on right now. Another really great, just getting into, I think, meditation, as you mentioned, is an incredible, powerful tool. And even just doing 2 minutes a day can change things for you. One meditation that I did the other day with a woman from Vancouver, online, just on a call like this, that I found incredibly impactful, was to so sitting comfortably, ensuring that I wasn't going to have any discomfort because I was going to be sitting for a while. So, sitting on a cushion or sitting up against a chair was the grounding aspect. But she talked about, closing your eyes and imagining a white light entering into your body, or whatever color of light that you need right now to channel. And so visualizing that light as you take a breath in and entering, and as you exhale, allowing anything that's not serving you right now to exit through the feet. So, and if you sit in the sun, or, even just in light, and just actually visually imagine the sun coming in, or, whatever light, again, color works for you. But then she ended the meditation with simply just rubbing your hands together, creating that warmth. And then starting to do that gentle caress, and just checking in with yourself. It's again that grounding, and stroke your arm, And I found that in terms of people who have experienced trauma in the past, again, who may not be surrounded by family, as I said earlier, that was so powerful. And I'm surrounded by family, but guess what? Everybody's going through their own thing right now. And just doing that, I mean, wow, it was so powerful. So I think that's when, again, gratitude meditations are powerful. And then the last one I'll mention, because I think it's so easy to be angry right now about the things you can control. So I want to encourage as much as possible a meditation focused on love and kindness. So start with yourself, and as you meditate, it's being may you be healthy, happy, and peaceful, find peace. And then moving that meditation to, someone that you love. So, may my spouse or my, significant other, parents, may they be healthy, happy, and find peace. And then maybe starting to move that on to others, your neighborhood, the things beyond that, your city, your province, your nation, the whole world, because the reality is that, again, we're in this together, although apart, spreading that, and how powerful that is.
Right. Great stuff. And even as I'm listening to you, I'm just hearing the bird in the background chirping, and it's just calming me down.
Right?
Making me feel better.
A beautiful sentient being, just in the right time, right moment.
Absolutely. That's great. Thank you. So do you have any advice for individuals that may be having trouble keeping or staying focused while working from home? So we talked about some meditation stuff, but that can be a hard thing. I mean, there are distractions. You might get in your head a bit. How can we stay focused when we're working from home?
Yeah, I was talking about this actually the last few days with a number of people aged from, let's say, 25 to 67. And the first thing I want to exercise here is this concept of work-life balance, which seems for some people quite impossible. And work-life balance in this world of working from home, especially if you've never done it before, is setting boundaries. Boundaries means saying no, standing in your ground, so asserting yourself, to do so, which is in its own experience that some need to navigate. It's also about like shutting your phone off or any technology at like during work hours, and even having a conversation with your employer about the importance of that for your mental health. And it means practicing some of the things that we've been already talking about, and you can do it collectively. And I have one friend who's like, yeah, like I'm living by myself. So I actually need the conversations with my colleagues, but I don't always want to be on a work call. So she actually invited her colleagues to have a work lunch where they actually talked about how they're doing self-care right now, which I thought was really refreshing. So they're like biting into their sandwiches and chewing in front of each other and being au naturel. And having their children perhaps run around for some of those that have, the little people around right now.
Nice.
And then eating nutritiously, I think it's taken for granted right now, how important that is. And I recognize that that's a challenge. And again, that's another conversation for another day, but eating colorful meals. And I think the last one I'll mention is getting your body moving. So not sitting for long durations. We know that sedentary lifestyles are just as bad as, smoking, tobacco, in terms of how it impacts your cardiac health. So why not start, or your metabolic health? So get up every 20 minutes if you can. Set a timer on your phone. Get some AirPods or whatever you can purchase so you can move a little bit. We're so lucky to live in an age like this where we have access to technology. I was on a call yesterday and someone said that they've learned how to, look that they're participating on a call, like learning like distance education, and they're painting their nails, and so I think this is the reality and people are starting to figure it out.
Right.
So those are just a few, some tips.
Great tips. Thank you. So would you say now is the time then, outside of work, is now the time to be productive and catch up on, things we never had time to do before? Or is it better for us just to relax, take it easy, and enjoy this downtime that we have before we go back to our crazy schedules in whatever the new normal is going to be?
Well, Adrian, I think you know the answer to this question, but what I'm going to tell, and I think I want you to shed some light on this too, from your perspective, because I think it's important. What I take away from the question is it's your choice, and you need to do that self-reflection about where you're at, and just talking about work-life balance means where are you at in terms of your energy levels today. Last week, I can tell you, like being a mother of 2 young kids below, the age of 4, it is so important that right now I'm not making these massive plans to renovate the house and clean. I'm actually breaking things up into small chunks. And when we have small successes, that reinforces a reward system in our brain. And so similarly, what I want to encourage you to do is, get out of bed, do some of those small successes. But it's ultimately up to you how you want to, like I said earlier, live your life. But if you don't have the energy, maybe your body's telling you the chronic stress of being in a pandemic that you do need to rest, and that's okay. So, break it up into smaller chunks. Some people find that cleaning and organizing can be very therapeutic. But the question, I've dealt with this is just before the pandemic. This is my second mat leave. Is like, I need to be productive. This is the societal pressure, and you need to challenge that and live yourself, like in terms of what your beliefs are. Live who you are. And you have that choice, and nobody else should be telling you otherwise.
Right. And I agree with that. I think for me, it really is about finding balance. So I can be productive, but I can also, as much as life can be regular, or try to regulate my life, have some productivity, but also allow myself to enjoy a bit of time off as well, and keep that as
Absolutely.
normal as possible for myself, is what I'm
Yeah.
trying to do. What role do you think governments, employers, and communities have in enabling access and ability to practice self-care?
I think I've started to mention them. You can take action as an individual to say something to your employer. And on the other, side of that is that employers need to take action to support their staff being able to work at a productive level. What I found really interesting, that I've read on online at this time, is that productivity levels have actually increased to some extent. Um, and the question I would raise is like, is that because people don't have boundaries? So there's this line that people need to tread on very carefully, because what you don't want is burnout.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as possible, like I think one practical, solution is ensuring that employers have the resources to support their staff, and so that might be, some type of whether it's legislation regarding sick time, legislation about, or sorry, I should say, like funding towards mental health services is always an issue. I've been really happy in our current time that there's been some resources towards mental health psychotherapy right now, but we need even more, particularly for the vulnerable populations. Elderly are not leveraging technology, and rural communities, Indigenous communities. We certainly need to think outside of the box about how we can support their mental health right now. And the reality is that people need a paycheck to be able to purchase healthy food, to also feel a sense of purpose, and work vocation does that. So we need jobs. So we need to think about that creatively. I think technology is one of those areas that our government also needs to invest in, and they are, but there needs to be more about mental health apps. That's not enough. Not everybody's going to tune into that type of technology right now, but again, it's certainly an option. And I think about work hours being another practical. So, for example, I have colleagues in the healthcare system that are working like 3 on, taking 4 days off, or they're working 3 days on site, and then they have 4 days that they're working, or 2 of the 4 days that they're working from home. And so that flexibility that also enables some level of social distancing, I think that that's critical right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think employers need to be supported, but they also need to support their employees with a level of, when I say access to resources of mental health services, I mean like it's like $3,000. It doesn't go far, let alone $500 doesn't go far for a psychotherapy service. And what people need in terms of prevention right now, so we don't get into a mental health crisis at the end stage of the pandemic, is people to talk to. The social connectivity is critical right now. So I think the last thing that the government and employers can do right now is focus on consistent messaging and, dispel the myths, talk about it, acknowledge how people are going through a difficult time, be human, have regular check-ins, role model. That's really hard. I was so impressed to hear an employer had a VP that's running a yoga class today. So impressed because that's saying, we value you. This is important. We're not going to work for this designated time because this is what we want you to be doing because your health matters.
Nice. Yeah. That's fantastic that people are doing that sort of thing. Excellent. What impact do you think COVID-19 will have on social norms and behaviors for society as a whole when we go back to the new normal?
What I find really interesting is first of all, I'm really grateful to live in Canada, but also be in a community that is incredibly diverse.
Mm.
With that comes multiple opinions about the current state, but also what our future looks like. And so one of the things that comes to mind is this reoccurring theme about fear and anxiety. And so one of the things that we need to combat, because it will be something that's real, is like this fear about, I've heard this consistently, even with, whether it's young or old, this fear about hugging people,
Mm-hmm.
this fear. And like, so again, there will be, we have to appreciate that there will be a period of time where there's this um, sense of wanting to be in community, and we have to discover, even starting now, what that looks like and what that feels like, and ways to show our love to those that we want to support. And I've been so amazed by generations helping out generations. So, for example, people bringing the elderly food right now, or other vulnerable, uh, populations food, and raising funds. Um, I think another social norm impact is, when I talk about communities, is like, how do you again create those spaces?
Mm.
So, it's not just about supporting small businesses, because I think that's like some of the campaigns that I'm seeing, for example, on Instagram. It's not about the owners or the like these organizations' livelihoods that's just at risk here. It's again creating a sense of community for people to congregate. So this new societal norm is about, ensuring that there's social distancing, but that again, that people feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if we don't enable people to still be able to congregate in a new form, we jeopardize again our mental health. So how we can do that, includes setting up environments, physical environments, and being okay with that, to combat again the fear that you will be okay when you go to this place. That employers care about their employees, but they care about you too. They don't just care about the money that's coming in. And I've been really refreshed by that, by having local community businesses be the owners actually dropping off things for my family. I've been really moved by that, and by the communities coming together online to have chat. So again, what is the community feel look like? That's the biggest societal norm aspect that I'm trying to figure out. And I think also, I would hope one of the new societal norms is the shift from me to us.
Comment so many beautiful things there. I feel, even just in connecting with you, better than I did before we started this conversation. So I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to address my questions, to be there for me, and I hope I am able to be there for you at some point during all of this. And yeah, I think I am ready to get out of bed and figure myself out a little bit and see how I can move forward with some of the tips that you've given me. So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that.
It's my pleasure. And I think if I'm to give you one message today before you leave, it's to take action, and
Mm,
do it not just for yourself, do it for your community. And taking action means taking care of you first.
excellent. Thank you.